Welcome to the Run to Danger podcast. Please enjoy this original song by my good friend Luke Bailey, titled, you guessed it, Run to Danger. Alrighty, I'm here, blessed to have Mr. Royce on. Rod is responsible for all of us knuckleheads doing this crazy sport of jiu-jitsu, so we thank him for that. But we thank him for having 5 crazy boys that have influenced myself and my father as well in the jiu-jitsu world. So I'm very glad to have Rod on. We had his boys on episode 1 and 2, so it's really great to have the big bull on now. Yeah. First, let's just get your backstory. Where were you born? Where are you from?
I was born in Hoopaw, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, up on the mountain with the nice guys. Yeah.
Nice. And how long did you live in Hoopaw?
Oh, I was only there until I was probably 3 or 4 years old.
3 or 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you guys moved down?
Yeah, we
down
moved
here?
actually right down the road here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, over on just down the street from where you get off 44.
Okay.
When my dad built a block house down there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And where are your parents from?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then you guys have some Irish descent in you?
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about that.
Okay.
I mean, I've got the bloodline and all that, but I've never really
Dove
into it and studied it much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just kind of figured we were all kind of mutts, to be honest with you. Yeah.
all mixed breeds?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And then growing up in Shasta County, what was that like? Where'd you go to school?
I went to Cottonwood.
Okay.
Yeah, East and West Cottonwood School. It was good. I mean, back then it was a lot different because it was just a bunch of ranch boys. Mm-hmm. And boy, there was some tough kids.
Yeah.
Tough kids in there. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, there was a lot of fist fights, even 4th and 5th grade.
Really?
Oh, God, you'd go out in East Cottonwood. You'd go out there and lunchtime, and there'd be dust and dirt going everywhere. There was. I mean, that was, well, just an example. My dad told me, first day of school, he goes, don't come crying to me. He goes, somebody push you around. He goes, you just start throwing.
Deal with it.
That's the way it was. So a little different now.
Yeah. Now you get a sentence right as you throw the first punch.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah.
But that sounds like a crazy old cowboy town.
It was. Well, back then, the OK Corral was there, totally different. OK Corral. And, it's the bar, the local bar. And my dad never went there. He didn't drink or anything. But anyway, he used to say, there was, even at that time, there was still some gunfights there and some knife fights and stuff back in those days. Yeah, so.
That's
It was still, yeah. And there was one old man, it was really cool for years. In fact, I was probably 30 when he died. But he would ride a horse in from way out Gas Point Road.
Whoa.
And just like he was out of a Western.
Tie his horse
And
up to the bar.
Yeah, he'd just clomp in, out Gas Point Road. And he'd go into the grocery store, pick up his stuff. He'd go to the bar, OK Corral, sit there and drink. Man, he was a tough-looking man.
Yeah, no one messed with him, probably.
Man, he was tough-looking. 6 shooters.
Jeez.
The whole thing. Yeah.
That's
He was the only
crazy.
one. But I don't know, I'm just guessing, I would say maybe every 8 weeks, you'd see him clomping into town. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Crazy time.
Yeah.
Did you play any sports coming up?
Basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah.
Basketball was your main sport?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how long did you play basketball?
Through varsity.
Through varsity
Yeah.
in high school?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what got you into basketball?
My brother.
Brother?
Yeah, he's a lot taller than me. He's like 6'4", and he just loved basketball. So we lived way out Gas Point Road, and so there was nobody out there. And so we had like three things to do: go to the creek and swim, go hunting, or play basketball.
Yeah.
Or we would, if mom and dad weren't there, we would take dad's motorcycle and go up on the pavement and do burnouts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, boy stuff.
Dad would take off with his Jeep and go up in the mountain or something. Yeah.
That's cool. And you just have the one brother?
Yeah, just one brother. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. And then where'd you go to high school? West Valley?
No,
Or did
Anderson.
they have Anderson?
Anderson,
Okay.
yeah.
They didn't have West Valley
No,
back
not
then,
yet.
huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And how was that experience in Anderson?
You know, it was. I had a good time in high school. Wasn't much of a student. Got along with all the teachers really well. In fact, Mr. Helzer, he was the dean of boys, and he took care of all of the discipline. So me and him, we
Got real
knew
tight.
each other. Yeah. Well, I was stupid. I had this. Growing up, because we had really nothing to do, my dad bought me a 1940 Chevy for $5.
Whoa.
And he pulled it in the garage, and he goes, "This is your car." Now I was young. I was maybe 7 years old. And he goes, "You can build this." And so I started on that car. Well, by the time I got it finished I think I was a freshman. And so anyway, it was a nice car. It was pretty nice. And so I could never get it through my tiny mind. Mr. Helzer had his own parking spot. And I had to park way out in the middle of nowhere. And so I would go down and park in his parking spot all the time. And he would call me in, into his office, and he goes, "Why do you keep?" I go, I don't understand. I go, "You're paid to be here. I'm not." I go, "So, you're getting paid to walk in from out there. So I should..."
I'm helping you out. You're getting paid by the hour, right?
I mean, I should get the parking spot. Get your car out of my, over and over again. And then finally it was kind of funny. He had I can't remember his name. He was the bus mechanic. And he had him watching his spot. So when I came in, the bus mechanic would chase me off. Well, I came in there one day and, oh God, this was so bad. I came in there one day and he was, and rightfully so, he was mad because he always had to stop. So anyway, he chased me off, and I accidentally backed over his foot. And, oh man, he had never cussed at me before.
Yeah.
Boy, he was cussing, and he had a big old wrench. And I saw I ran over his foot, and I thought, oh no, and so I took off, and he threw the wrench at my car. But yeah, I mean, it was, they were good people. I mean, there was some issues back then, but the teachers were mostly good people.
Yeah, they were looking out for you.
Yeah, they were. They weren't sure anything, but anyway, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And what position do you play basketball?
Forward.
Forward?
Usually, yeah. Sometimes guard, just depended.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how did your teams do back then?
Freshman, I forget the record. I think we were like 10-2. Junior varsity, we were 18-0.
Wow.
And then varsity, we were like, I don't know, 8-6 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was big drop. the teams ahead of us, our team, they had some just tremendous players. In fact, 3 of them went on to play college ball.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we had some tremendous players. And then, of course, Mark Parent and Eric Parent were a year below me.
Okay.
And they got moved up to varsity when they were, Mark did. And so the following year they did really well. The following year when I was a senior, I went to work. So I had to start working.
Where'd you go to work?
For my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a construction company.
Okay.
So he worked at PG&E full time, and then he ran a construction company.
Oh, wow.
So he put me to work doing that, so I didn't have time anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then after high school, you just did that full time?
For a little while. Then through that summer. And then I ended up in Arizona. I went to a trade school in Arizona for a year.
Okay.
And so I ran around and raised hell in Arizona for a year, and then ended up leaving early.
Yeah, Tanner made me ask this one, but are you still wanted in Arizona?
You know, I'm so old, probably they've probably forgotten about me, but at one point, yes, I was wanted in Arizona. And it wasn't for, yeah, stupid story. I just went, I was a mechanic for U-Haul at their main moving center.
Okay.
And I just finished tuning up this big TH truck. That's their big one. I should say at the time, that was their big one. And I took it around the block to make sure everything was working. And this lady pulled up beside me in this old Camaro and started screaming at me that I had hit her car. And I pulled over, got out of the car, and she's just yelling, screaming, and freaking out. And I go, where did I hit you? And she goes, at that corner. And I walked over and looked at her fender, and the fender had surface rust on it where it had been hit. I'm like, I didn't hit your car. I go, you're just trying to get U-Haul to pay for it.
Yeah.
She goes, you stay right here. I'm calling the cops. I go, I didn't hit your car.
Yeah.
And I left. This is actually so I go back to the moving center. I tell this guy, his name, we called him Buddha.
Okay.
He actually, what year was that? Well, anyway, he had won the Junior Olympics in wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Just a big, tough kid. And he worked there with me, and I pulled in, told him what happened. And so we go about our business. Well, 3 police cars pulled in. And Buddha goes, go in the back, I'll take care of this. And so I went around to the back, and in the back there was a manager's room, and it had a 2-way mirror. And so I'm watching the policeman walk up, and I see Buddha talking, and so I walk to the door, and I'm listening. And the police officer goes, how would you like to join him in jail? And Buddha goes, he's over there.
See ya.
Anyway, I walked out and went, man, you're tough, man. You are really tough. And so anyway, it's kind of interesting what happened. These days they wouldn't get away with it, but I had it coming. The whole thing I had coming. They walk around and they say, well, we don't see any damage. And I go, I'm telling you, guys, this is BS.
Yeah.
And the guy, I'd driven my car back there, and one of the police officers go, I suppose that's your car. You're one of those rich boy Californians. And I laughed. I go, well, I'm not really rich, but yeah, that's my car. And he goes, put your hands behind your back. We're taking you in because you left the scene of an accident. I go, no, I'm not putting my hands behind my back. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
There was no accident. So he proceeded to grab a handful of hair and shove me up against the car and handcuffing me. And of course, I was only 17 at the time and pretty dumb, pretty wily, and so anyway, we proceeded to tussle around a little bit, and he proceeded to smash my head into the top of the car and shove me in the back seat. That's how it all began.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the story. I mean, I had everything that he did coming because I was being a little douchebag, but I honestly didn't do anything.
Yeah.
The lady was lying.
Yeah.
She was just trying to get insurance money.
Right.
So she's probably done it 30 times.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, that's that story.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so the trade school you were going to, was that like a mechanic trade school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what got you into cars? I mean, you said your dad bought you that first truck.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, he bought me that. It was a 1940 Chevy. And, we put a V8 in it and a 4-speed, and we did all kinds of stuff to that car. And I really enjoyed it, and that's how I ended up taking up that.
Okay.
And then when I came back, actually, he had to come get me. That's another story. So I called Dad because I went to court, and the judge says, well, you come back for sentencing. And I'm going, hey, this is insane. I didn't do anything.
Right.
And so I called my dad and I go, hey, I hadn't told him yet. I go, they're going to put me in jail. And he goes, get your stuff together. And he grabbed my brother. It's funny that you asked that because my brother was laughing about it today. And they drove 18 hours to get me because I was supposed to be in court the next day,
Wow.
and loaded everything up and came back. So yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, that's the story.
So after you came back, what'd you do then?
I worked for my dad for a while, and then that's when we had that huge crash in the economy back in the 80s, I think. And I moved to San Jose, and I went to work for Hans Nielsen, Mercedes and Porsches. And I worked there for about 3 years in San Jose.
Okay.
And I actually worked like 2 jobs there.
Wow.
I worked on my own, and then I worked there at the shop.
Okay.
And saved money and came back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that when you started like getting into the muscle cars and
No,
that kind of
I'd always
Just
been
always.
into those, but then, no, I got back and immediately, I owned a lot, even before I left. You know, when I was 17, I had a lot in Cottonwood,
Okay.
and my dad and grandfather developed the land, and we worked for 2 years for free, and they gave us each a lot.
Oh, cool.
For that. So I got back, I bought a grocery store, gas point store, and then I built a house, and I went to work for Gary's foreign car, and he worked on Porsches and Mercedes there.
Okay.
And that's where I was for quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you and your brother, you guys would flip cars as well, right? You guys would always kind of work on them. And
No, that came later.
Okay.
I mean, I had 5 businesses. I ended up with, 4 hardware stores, and then I imported hardware for Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
I sold them all their hardware to reman all their Coke machines in the United States and Canada. So between those things, I stayed really busy.
Yeah.
And at that point, I sold the grocery store.
Okay.
So yeah, the
Very
muscle cars came when no good way to say it, but the boys ended up without a mom, and so they were with me like 24/7.
Right.
So I ran the businesses from the phone, and I would take the boys, and we would just drive around, and we just happened to stop at a car, and I bought it. And then probably 2 years later, we had probably bought and sold probably 200-300 cars.
Wow.
So that just kind of happened. And in the meantime, I was taking the best ones and stashing them. But by the end of the divorce, they were gone.
Yeah. That happens, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, that's how all that came about. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was it like with 5 boys coming up? I mean, that had to have been a hectic household with, with all those energy boys.
You'd have to talk to them. I hate to say that I ruled with an iron fist, but I didn't have time to put up with much.
Right.
So, I wouldn't say with an iron fist. I actually sat down with them when all these other things had taken place, and it just ended up being me and them. My oldest went into the Army at 17. And then, so it was just the 4 at home then. And so I literally just sat down with them and said, look, guys, this is the game. It's just me. I've got to feed you. I've got to pay the bill. I got to do everything. I've got to run the businesses. I don't have time to settle arguments or put up with much BS.
Right.
So we're not doing that. So it was actually fairly smooth. I mean, there was always something,
Yeah.
always something with, but all in all, they were all pretty good boys. I mean, they had their situations, but
Yeah. Boys will be boys.
Yeah, it went pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're alive, so I
Yeah.
guess I win.
Yeah, right? You did a good job. And then when did jiu-jitsu come into all this?
Oh man, well, when I had the hardware stores in each one of the stores, I had a mats in back each one, and So everywhere I went, I had places to train. And I had people always coming to train. What it really started is me and the boys started out doing karate with Dal Neathammer. You know Dal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we trained with him for years, and then me and Dal would meet almost every night, and boy, we just used to beat the crap out of each other. I mean, literally. I can't tell you how many times I had to go to the doctor because he neck cranked me and I had to have my neck put in. You know, I mean, we just, yeah, it was pretty bad. A lot of fun. Love the guy. I mean, I don't get to see him much anymore, but Dal's just an awesome guy. It started out with that, but we were in the back one day. Dal wasn't there. And, well, let me back up. I skipped a part. So we went down to train, and we're training, and he goes, and the first UFC had just happened. Mm-hmm. And he had disappeared for 3 days. I didn't know where he went, you know, and normally, you know, we're on the phone all the time.
Yeah.
And he gets back, and he calls, he goes, hey, let's train tonight. And so we're talking, and I go, where'd you go? Oh, I had to go to this training seminar. And I go, oh, okay, you know, for the police office, police. And so anyway, we start training. He goes, we're going to do something a little different tonight. And I go, yeah. I go, what? And he goes, so we're going to do our regular, you know, we used to stand up and just go at it. I mean, broken noses and just everything you could. I mean,
you guys wear gloves or
no,
just bare fist?
No, it was bare-fisted.
Bare knuckle brawls.
Yeah. And I go, okay. And he goes, we're gonna be able to take each other down now. I go, okay, you know. And by that point, me and him were about even. I mean, he'd beat me up, I'd beat him up. You know, it was pretty close. Man, he grabbed a hold of me and threw me down and put me in a Americana like in 2 seconds. And I'm going, what the? You know, I saw the first UFC.
Right.
And he started laughing, and he goes, yeah, he goes, I was down there. He goes, I was training with Royce in Horian down in, oh God, what's the name of it? Torrance.
Right.
And he goes, so we're going to start doing this. So anyway, we started training and doing a little bit of that and picking up as much as we could because it was so far away.
Right.
And there was nobody within miles that was doing anything.
And before that, did you guys have any like structured training with the fist fighting? Did you guys like have any instruction, or was it just you guys were just kind of?
Oh no, Dal was a black belt.
Okay, so he was
and then
already
Larry
trained.
McClanahan was like he actually was on the team with what's the guy that's so famous? They make the jokes about him all the time. Anyway, he trained with not Bruce Lee, but the other guy, the white guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm thinking
yes.
about?
Gosh dang.
I can't believe I
Texas
can't think.
Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
he trained with him, and they were on the tournament team together and all that kind of stuff. Well, Larry taught me and Dal. Larry passed away now, but I think he was like a 7th, 8th degree.
Wow.
Really, really quick. But anyway, that's where it all started. But we were in the hardware store one day, me and some of the other guys. Dal wasn't there. And we're back there, and, you know, I'm thinking I'm like king, you know, because I'm just slaughtering everybody. And I was just still a white belt, but, you know, back then, if you knew 4 moves,
right,
you're killing everybody. And this guy came in about, I don't know, he's maybe 5'5", and at the time, he was really overweight, and he was watching, you know, through the window. And I walked out, and I go, can I help you? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I was wondering if you'd mind if I came and trained with you guys. And I go, no, not at all. I go, yeah, you're more than welcome. And I go, we'll be here tomorrow night, you know. And dumb me, I go, I don't know why I didn't pick up on this, but so he shows up, and he's got a gi on. And it didn't, you know, I'm looking at the guy, and, you know, he's, you know, overweight, and he's small, and I go, why don't you go over here and with these guys? and we'll see how you do. Then we'll come over here. And he goes, no. He goes, I'd be more comfortable with you to start with. And I go, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
God, he just stomped me. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, knee to belly, on my back, choked me. And again, he was older than me, and I had been lifting weights. And, I mean, that's all I did was train and work from the phone and raise the boys. That's all I did.
Right.
And this guy just it was embarrassing. He embarrassed me. And we get all done. I looked at him. I go, something ain't right here. And he started laughing. He goes, I'm Hickson's Gracie's first purple belt. Wow. He goes, I took privates with Hickson for years.
Wow.
It was 3-4 a week. He goes, when they first came into the country. So that was John Dill.
Okay.
He lived right down the street. He had just moved in. And so he worked at FedEx as a pilot. Mm-hmm. And so he was off a lot. And so I trained with him almost every day. There was one time that we went like 102 days straight training every day. And then, then I would go down and I would train down in Torrance. And then I would train with Joe Morera. Uh-huh. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, and James Boran. And so we would go back and forth, and that's how it all began. There was only 2 or 3 of us for years here.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We'd meet down at John's house, and then somewhere in there, Dow kept with the karate. We still talked all the time, but he didn't train with us much at that point. And then I got just hooked on jiu-jitsu.
Right.
It was like no comparison to
right.
karate. So that's how all that started.
And you told me a story. You would go down and you said one time you went down there right after one of the first UFCs, and there was like a line out the door.
Oh, it was crazy.
And just the popularity just blew up.
Oh, it was insane. I got down there. Well, I was one of them. As soon as it happened, I went down there, and it was literally the line was just going out the door and down the street, and they had their little Visa machine there. And I'm saying, because, I'm a businessman and I'm watching these guys just, and I mean, it was everybody from, actors to doctors to, I mean, they were on fire. I couldn't even guess how much money they brought in.
Wow.
It was insane. It really was. Something interesting about that too. So that first trip down there, I was supposed to do privates with Royce. And he called, something came up and he couldn't do it. And he goes, I have a really good brown belt, my friend. He goes, I set you up with him. Much better price. You learn much. I go, okay. So I get there, and he's a small guy, very small. I mean, like small. Mm-hmm. And again, I weighed like 220, and I lifted all the time and trained all the time. And great, the guy had great technique and had a great time with him. And at the end, he goes, so you want to roll? And I go, yeah, man, let's get after it. And I'm thinking I'm just going to grab this guy and just crush him like a bug, right. Again, I got stomped like a little girl. Guy just worked me over. It was so funny.
Wow.
Well, anyway, to skip forward, so Sam moves to Reno and goes to work there as a bodyguard. And he calls me one day and he goes, Dad, he goes, I'm training these 2 black belt kids. And he goes, kids, he goes, they're my age. He goes, but they're young.
Right.
And he goes, you trained with their dad. And I go, what? I go, I don't recognize it. And then he told me that story. Mm-hmm. And it was those 2 kids, which I can't remember their names right now, but they fight in the MMA right now.
Oh, wow.
And they actually, he actually told me the story back to me. And I went, oh my gosh, it's the brown belt that whooped my butt. Uh-huh. And I go, please tell me you just stomped his sons. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, I ran over him. He goes, as soon as I figured out what was happening, He goes, I just creamed him. Anyway, that was kind of an interesting story.
Yeah. And what was the brown belt's name?
You know, I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember his name. I mean, Sam would know it off.
Yeah.
You know, but God, it was so funny because that was like, God, 25 years later or something.
Wow.
You know, and all of a sudden, both of his boys had their black belts, and Sam, they came in to train with Sam. Sam was teaching at school down there after work, and you know, he told me, he goes, yeah, when they came in, I saw their black belts, and he goes, so I thought, you know, I'm gonna have to really get after it.
Yeah.
He goes, but God, he goes, I just slaughtered them. And he goes, I'm bigger than they are, but you know, still, I was expecting a tussle. And then we got to talk, and he goes, we put it all together. He goes, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Small world.
yeah, I told him, I said, hey, this was just late. I said, hey, have you seen their dad? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I told him hello for you. And I go, good. I go, did you tell him that you whooped their son's butts? And he goes, yeah, I did. But
That's awesome.
Anyway, yeah, that's how all that came about.
Cool. And then who gave you your belts?
John Dill did.
Okay.
And then the black belt I got from John Dill and James Boran.
Awesome.
James Boran, I think, is a 6th or 7th degree now.
Wow.
Yeah. And John's probably, well, we've all gotten old and we're all beat half to death. James actually still trains. He's 65. He just had a hip replaced.
Wow.
But he still trains down there and still teaches and stuff.
That's insane.
But yeah, he actually played pro football for the Jets.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you look it up, James Boran.
Okay.
I think he was a receiver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man of many talents.
Yeah, he was tough. Well, he fought Jean-Jacques Machado twice in the Worlds for the championship, if I remember correctly. And he lost, but he made it that far.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
mean, he was tough. I mean, he really was. Interesting story with him. I went down there to train with him. He was getting ready to fight with the Worlds, and I went down to train for that with him. And it's so funny. I got him in a cross choke, and so funny, that guy. So I'm underneath, and I'm coming across, and I got it right here, and I mean, he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows he's done, and the phone rings. The phone rings, and he goes, Rod, I gotta get the phone, man. Gotta get the phone. And I go, yeah. And he goes, no, man, business. I gotta take care of business. So I let it go, and he turns, looks at me, he goes, I wouldn't let you go.
Tap first. That's hilarious.
But you know, it's funny. I don't know what it is about jiu-jitsu. It brings in such a diverse people. It's just mind-boggling because you get my experiences with the people you have people coming in that need it to help them because they've had so much destruction in their life. Mm-hmm. And then you have people that are just really great people, just really, and it's really interesting because it's almost like those people that come into it that need the help and have all the issues and the problems get pulled up out of that. It's really interesting. There's a lot more to, in my tiny mind, there's a lot more to jiu-jitsu than just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. When I restarted, you know, I did the fighting thing for a little bit, but when I restarted with Tanner, it was during, you know, the pandemic, and I had, you know, worked in the beer industry for a while, and you know, just going through the motions, and you know, and then I got back to it, and it was just like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is my body is telling me that this is where I'm supposed to be, and you know, it is just such a great positive therapy, and it brings, you know, like you said, it brings the lower up and the higher,
teaches them humility.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just is so joyful, you know, and that's something that you and Tanner and Matthew always portray. You know, you guys always, you're never too serious. You're never too hard. You're very jovial people, and you guys like to joke around and you know have a good time, and it really shows in the vibe that you guys have created in the gym. You know, it's like you know you want to be there.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you dread it. Like a hard grinding practice is like relieving.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because we struggled getting that for quite a while. And it was always the goal. You know, Sam loved that kid dearly. I mean, Sam's an awesome kid. But somebody would come in the gym and we'd be sitting there and they'd come in and, you know, you get some people coming in that are arrogant and they would come in and they would talk and Sam would go, "Dad, I'm going to kill him when we get out there." "Sam, stop it. Just stop. Just..." "Dad," he goes, "the guy's a jerk." He goes, "I'm going to kill him." We struggle with that because inevitably he'd go out and beat him half to death.
Right.
There was one time, this guy's a brown belt too. He sent the guy out crying.
Wow.
He just made him look so bad that the guy and I'm not talking just like dribble.
Yeah.
He was bawling.
Wow.
And it's like, gosh dang you, kid. Would you please stop doing that? Sam was a natural athlete.
Yeah.
And he picked up on stuff. Tanner used to tell me, "Dad drives me crazy." He goes, "I drill it and drill it and drill it." Sam watches me and goes, "Oh, okay." And just does it.
Does in the next round.
So yeah, Sam's first fight as a black belt, I forget the guy's name. He's 4-time world champion. And he fought the guy and he was ahead on points all the way to the very end. And at the very end, the guy got him on an advantage. And at the very end, Sam had mounted him. But it was a high mount, so he didn't get points for it. And the guy was able to roll back over it. And that's how he ended up losing. But Sam was a natural. Kid was a brute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always hear stories about Sam
Oh,
just
he was
breaking ankles.
Oh God, that kid. He's just a great kid. He really is. But he just has zero tolerance for any kind of arrogance, no matter how much you talk to him.
Right.
"Please, Sam, please stop." "No, Dad. The guy's a jerk. I'm gonna kill him." Oh my gosh. Yeah, he cost us. I mean, guys would come from the other gym in town to try it out.
Yeah.
And he would just beat them to death. He would embarrass them. He would drag them all over the mat and just embarrass them. You know, and you're just going, come on. You know, you want the guy to see that you're better and that there's a lot to learn, but you don't want to
destroy him.
Yeah, you don't want him to walk out feeling like a girl or anything. But anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah.
When did you went down to Royce's, and then when did you officially start the gym from out behind the hardware shops? When did you have the first Rice Bros location? Well,
I helped Carlos open his gym here in town, and we taught there for him for a long time. I don't, maybe 3-4 years maybe, and then there became an issue there, and we ended up leaving, and that's when I opened. When he moved over on I think it's Hartnell, they're an Enterprise. Then we opened out on Railroad, or out on Airport. So
okay. Yeah. Do you know what year that was?
No, boy, I don't remember. Yeah, we've been open for 15 years, I think. Okay. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And then what was the evolution like when you're training the boys? When did you talk about Tanner kind of taking the kids class, and when did you start to kind of leave it to the boys to start coaching?
I actually Tanner started at a young age. I mean, they started training. We had mats behind the house too, and I would go out there at night and train with them, and back on the back porch. So he started about 6, 7 years old, and then Matthew would sit back there and poor kid. Matthew would sit there and back there and get beat up and cry, and it's so bad.
Yeah.
And then Tanner, you've seen Tanner's ears.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's all my fault. My lack of talent of teaching, And the way we were taught, I mean, you were forced to get out of things. I mean, they would put you there and they would keep you there until you used the technique to get out.
Right.
And so, I'd get cross-eyed on Tanner and all the boys and just crunch them, and say, get out. Tears, no tears, yelling, get out, And so that's why his ears are all jacked up.
You just put them in triangles and
I just
get out.
Yeah, it was just like, do the technique. Do the technique. Matthew got off easy because he was the baby.
Right.
Because Tanner and Sam taught him and kind of kept him away from actually teaching me or being taught by me, because obviously for obvious reasons. But they got their payback over the years, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you would you sent Tanner over to Brazil when he was a young pup coming up. And what was that like? Just just having him just go.
There was a lot of things happening during that period of time. I don't know if you know any of it. I don't want to go into it, but there was a lot of stuff that was going on at that time. And he had won the Pan Am's Blue Belt Division Juvenile. And there was a guy that had been flown in and was staying here, Diego Ferrer. He's an MMA fighter now.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was training at the Carlos's gym while we were there, and he ended up living with us. Well, anyway, short version is that, he ended up at our gym, and I paid him to teach Tanner privates every day. And then it came time he wanted to go home and visit his family. And so I just sent them both there. And so that's when all that started.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny, that kid, man, I'll tell you, I told him two things. I made a deal with him. Two things. I said, yeah, you can go. I think he was there for 6 weeks or 8 weeks the first time. And I said, but you got to promise me two things. No tattoos, no girls. And he goes, oh, no, yeah. He goes, I'm going there to train, Dad. I'm going to Tremel learn, Dad. I go, yeah, okay. So anyway, so the 8 weeks go by, and I'm, sending him money. And the money, Dad, we're out of money, and money, and I'm going, what's going on? I don't know what's going on over there, And I pick him up from the airport, and we're driving back, and he goes, Dad, I gotta show you something. And I go, yeah. I go, what? And he put up his thing, and it said "My Dad" down his arm, tattoo. And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, how am I supposed to get mad about that? I mean, I can't, And I go, at least you didn't get in trouble with any girls or anything, huh? Oh, no, Dad, no. Yeah, which was BS. But anyway, as time goes on, he still funnels out information here and there on accident that, happened on his, I think he went there 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
He was over there a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. But yeah, so they really didn't teach him a lot of technique. Well, I shouldn't say that. They did teach him technique, but the biggest thing he got from Brazil was they made him tough. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he would probably tell you the same thing.
Yeah, no, he
Yeah.
he talks about, you
Yeah.
know, training with Leandro and just how Leandro would just call out people who were just not, you know,
Yeah.
not taking rounds off, not going their hardest, and he made sure to keep that level
Oh, yeah.
to a high degree.
Yeah.
And we see that today, you know, at the gym. Tanner's very much on guys to push and give their best effort.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all about. Because if
Yeah.
you know you're just dogging and you know just coasting, it's
Yeah,
you're not making anyone better.
No, you're floundering. Yeah, I mean, you're just there hanging out. But you know, it wouldn't change anything. I mean, maybe a few things, maybe a few mistakes I made, and you know, but it wouldn't really change anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's all in all, given everything that has went on, and again, you know, I'm sure you know some of it. It's been good. It's been a good life, and
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu has been real good for all of us. I mean, it seems to. I think it's what held us together when we were going through all the stuff we went through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of the glue.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Nick, he went down south, and who did he train with down there?
He trained with David Dunn in part of the time. Who's the big UFC ref, the big guy?
Oh, Big John.
Yeah, and he trained at Big John's gym
Okay.
with a couple of Brazilians down there. Yeah.
And now he's got a gym up in Oregon. Sam's over in Nevada.
Yeah.
The boys, you know, have the Red Bluff and the Redding gym.
Yeah.
So four locations for Rice Brothers now?
No, there's three. I think there's the three locations, and I think they have like 14 affiliates or something.
Right.
Sam's a bodyguard. He bodyguards some billionaire over there
Oh wow.
in Reno.
Okay.
The guy actually, I probably shouldn't tell you that. But anyway, he likes the guy. You're not supposed to know his name.
Right.
But anyway, he bodyguards that guy.
Okay.
And he's doing really well.
That's cool.
He teaches. It's kind of interesting over there. He has one set of people that he teaches now, and they're 63 years old and 64 years old. A man and his wife, and he'll go over there 3 times a week and give them privates, and that's what he does now.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. Really. Said they're really neat people. I haven't met him yet. I'm supposed to go over there here pretty soon, and he's going to introduce me to all those guys. But
Nice. You trained with some Navy SEALs back in the day. What was that like?
no, you got that story from your dad. You know, it's that whole scenario. I mean, it's been years and years ago, so I would hope that it wouldn't get me in trouble now. But
Yeah.
there was a whole scenario behind that. Dow was involved in it too. They'd actually approached us to do a job for them, and it was in South America, and they would send us out and train us for 2 weeks with handguns and that kind of thing, and they wanted to drop us in the jungle, and they were going to pay us good, but if you got caught, I mean, your family got to keep the money.
Yeah.
But if you got caught,
It's on you.
yeah, you're dead.
But you also trained some SEALs, right?
Yeah, they came in. They
Okay.
came into the store in Cottonwood, and I was just run the cash register, and this guy walks in and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "Rod Rice, Dal Neathhammer around here?" And I go, "Yeah." I go, "I'm Rod." And I don't remember his name now. He goes, "I'm so and so." I believe it was SEAL Team 6, if I remember right. And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We came down. There's 3 of us. We came down. We heard about you guys, and we want to train with you." It's a funny story. Dal's such an animal. So I called Dal. And I go, "Well, sure. It'd have to be tonight after I close." And so I called Dal. And I go, "Hey," I go, "Dal, there's these 3 guys here. They're from SEAL Team 6. I'm pretty sure it was." And he goes, I go, "They want to train with us tonight." He goes, "Yeah, okay. No problem." And I go, okay, well, be here at 6 or whatever it was. So I told the guy, yeah, come on, 6 o'clock. And so me and Dal meet there early, and Dal gets all wrecked up, and he's like a frothing pit bull. He's walking back and forth, and he's like, well, we're the first one, just going, oh my God. Dal can be intense. A great guy, love him to death. But back in the day, he could be really intense.
Yeah.
So they came in, walked in the door, and Dal goes, which one of you guys want to go first? The guy goes, whoa, wait a minute. We want to just talk to you guys a little bit first, And so anyway, we talked a little bit. They just questioned us about what we did, where we trained, that kind of stuff. And then we trained with them a little bit. And tough guys, tough guys. Jiu-jitsu was pretty new. And they needed a lot of work on their technique. But, man, they did not like to quit. Quitting was not in their vocabulary.
Yeah.
But, everybody has to eventually quit.
Right.
So anyway, they were tough guys. And then from that, it's such an interesting thing. So we got this phone call to meet these guys, not these particular guys, but these other guys. And we met them at Eagle's Nest Pizza in Cottonwood.
Yeah.
And they literally came in 2 black SUVs. And I'm thinking to myself, this is like, this is stupid. I mean, this has got to be something dumb. And they come in and sit down, and that's when they hit us with it. They said, look, we've heard about you guys, and our guys came up, and, so this is what we got going. And they had a little vanilla folder, and they said, we have this job we'd like you to do. And he goes, well, we'll send you out. It pays $500,000 a piece. You get the money beforehand. Your family gets it. You'll be going to, Central America, back, where the drugs are.
Right.
We never found out who it was.
Right.
Because we didn't do it.
Right.
We talked about it, but, I had all the stores and all the boys, and Dal was head of security up at the courthouse. He had retirement, and it was like,
Yeah. The risk was outweighing the reward.
Yeah, it was like,
time.
First thing they say is, but if you get caught,
you're on your
you're on your own. It's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the guy going, well, $500,000 is a lot of money, but I've already got more than that, so I don't know. Anyway, so it was kind of an interesting deal.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Then one day, shortly after we turned it down, I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but anyway, Dal calls me. He goes, hey man, he goes, I need to talk to you. I go, what's going on? He goes, meet me out in front of the store in Cottonwood. So we meet out there, and I go, what's up? And he goes, hey, my phone's tapped.
Wow.
I go, no. He goes, yeah. He goes, my phone's tapped. Well, anyway, the phones are tapped.
Wow.
And he goes, we don't talk about nothing. That's been 25, 30 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but then, it was all brand new back then, and, that was when all the drug cartel stuff was heavy,
Right.
so, yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. And now today, with just the recent, hearings, if you've been following the news, it's just like all this other stuff's coming out, and it's just like, well, they have been,
Oh yeah,
they've been a little shady for a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's surprising to me anyway. In my age group, we were taught, to respect, the government, to respect the president, and as you go on in life, you start realizing that, wow, these guys are corrupt.
Yeah.
And they do some shady stuff.
Right.
They're, in my mind, they're pulling 2 civilians out to whack a guy.
Yeah.
Because they don't want anybody to know it was them.
Right. They can wash their hands of it.
Yeah. So it's pretty, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of interesting people, a lot of interesting things. I've enjoyed it. It's been a good life.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the boys have gotten a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the people in the community get a lot out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
And what was it like coaching your boys as they were coming up, like in the corner? What was that like?
Yeah, it was. It's all great when they're kicking butt.
Right.
But man, when they're losing, it's like it's not so fun when they're losing. But thankfully, I mean, they were real successful. All of them have been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously they've lost, but
right.
They've been. I think Tan was ranked number 5 in the world. I think.
Wow.
If I remember right, and then Matthew won the worlds, I think twice, and Sam won them once. So it was fun because you'd walk into a tournament. I remember one time, in particular, we walked into a tournament and we're all walking in, and I overheard this guy go, "Hey, that's the Rices." And I kind of looked up, and one of the guy goes, "Hey, Blondie," that's Sam.
Uh-huh.
"How old are you?" And Sam, at the time, he was 14, and he was just decimating the adults.
Right.
And he goes, "I'm 14." And then you hear the guy tell his buddy he's killing the adults. I think he was a purple belt at the time.
Wow.
So it was kind of it was a big ego booster.
Yeah.
But we actually, all of us at that point in time needed it.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on.
Right.
At the time.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
And how'd you get hooked up with Tim Kleiber?
Through church.
Okay.
We went to a house church together. And, then we'd have barbecues and whatnot, and we'd talk and stuff. And then he started training with us. Tim's an athletic guy.
Yeah.
He's a tough kid.
Yeah.
He just needed some technique.
Yeah.
He was a blast to have around. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we ended up with him. And then actually, the way we really ended up really getting to know each other well was I got thrown out of the house church. So we were a member of this house church. It's really interesting. So the group had been together for a while, and they actually had one of the magazines, I forget which one, sent a guy out to interview all of us because the group had been together so long. And and of course, I'm a pretty realistic guy. I'm looking around going, well, yeah, but there's issues here,
Right. Yeah.
And anyway, so we do this interview and everything's all hokey dokey and everything's great. And then about 2 weeks later, we're in Anderson at one of the guys' houses, and we're getting ready to start. And the guy who ran the group and his wife goes, "Hey, let's sit down. Let's get started. It's fine." So we sit down. And he goes, "Rod," he goes, "we'd like you to sit here." I go, "Okay." So I sit down and he goes, "Look," he goes, "we've done a lot of thinking and we don't want you to come anymore." I go, "Okay." And I think it was Tim that goes, "Why?" He goes, "Well," he really doesn't read the books and he doesn't study and he kind of makes jokes all the time. He kind of disrupts everything all the time. And I laughed and I go, did you ever think it's because, we work all week, we go to church on Sundays, and maybe we just like to have a barbecue and hang out and talk and not get beat to death with this?"
Right.
And anyway, so they ended up throwing me out, and they all left with me. Everybody just went. I think they had one family stay there, and we hung out for a while after that. But then everybody's lives got busy, and
Right.
and so it kind of dissipated from there. But
Mm-hmm.
we always keep track of each other,
Yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, Tim's a great guy.
Yeah, he is, definitely. I know It's so funny that, that link between our two families, because Dad went to college with him and stuff, and then, he'd always tell us about you guys. Oh, you guys need to, come over train. We were wrestling and you were doing jiu-jitsu, and it's cool that we finally got to get together and.
Oh yeah, we watched some of your fights, and in fact, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been so many years ago, but it seems like I contacted you on Facebook and said, "Hey, why don't you come by and train?"
You might have. I don't remember that, but you might have. Yeah.
And because I watched you fight, and I was just, your technique was a little loose. And, of course, I know where you were learning it. And,
right.
And I just thought, he's a tough kid. He'd probably do really, just tighten that, up a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember sending you
That's
an
cool.
instant message.
Yeah.
It's been, God, that was forever ago.
Yeah.
Probably
14,
yeah,
maybe?
14,
yeah,
15
14 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's crazy.
Anyway.
Yeah. That was a good time.
Yeah.
It was a fun time. It was short-lived, but it was a fun time.
Yeah.
It had to be. After my wife got pregnant, it was like, okay, time to go to work. Get a real career.
Get a real job, yeah. Playtime's over.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
I think for all that you do, and your boys, have been a big influence on my life. So
good.
I thank you for that and
Yeah.
raising good men.
Yeah. Yeah, your dad, I bet your dad's the one that rolled over on those stories, huh? Isn't he?
No, actually Tanner told me to ask you about the seals.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hit up the boys yesterday. I said, you got to give me some info to ask Rod. So.
Well, I actually, your dad, I had lunch with him, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And we just got to talking, and I think I told him, and I thought to myself, I bet you. I told him, I go, I don't know if I should even be saying this, but anyway, I thought, his dad rolled over on me.
He did tell me, but that wasn't where I was going. Tanner just told me, he's like, ask about the seals.
Oh,
so
that's well, there's a whole big, they offered us a job on Coronado Island. And
really?
Oh, yeah.
Multiple.
There was a
jobs.
whole big thing, and then they actually had designed a training center, and they brought it, and it was going to be in Red Bluff.
Oh, wow.
And they were trying to get it all pushed through, and it was, they were going to have the defensive driving, just the whole 9 yards there. And they actually had the plans and everything drawn up, and they just couldn't get it together.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite a deal. There was it was an interesting, that went on for probably a year.
Wow.
And then that was my first time I bodyguarded a guy. He was a union guy. And Walmart was having trouble with the concrete union. And it was fun. It's the first time you got to, somebody get in your face, you just...
Legally.
Yeah, you could legally just throw them to the side. It was fun. But anyway, I had a good time.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Cool.
That was at school. That was him.
Well, we had citrus growing everywhere. In fact, when we took the boys down to the Gilroy tournament, we stopped at our house and stole some oranges out of our front yard. They were good.
Yeah, the boys were raving about it.
We would play this one team. It was Peterson High School and Ben Bennett. And,
Crosstown rivals.
We every game we would lose to them, but we would hire one of our guys would get in front and slow the bus down to like 5 miles an hour
as they were leaving the school.
And we'd be lined up on both sides of the street in the bushes, and and I heard from one of the guys that they got so used to, they go, hit the deck. They'd go down the pop, 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 pop. A lemon on a bus sounds so awesome.
Wasn't Barry Eshy their coach too?
Yeah, I think so. Our old
junior high PE
teacher.
Sal Barry Eshy was their coach, so he knew a lot of us. But that was you and Alan Wing and Mitch Miles and All those guys.
Mitch purposely stalled. No, Al purposely stalled his car going into the parking lot on that game, and it was a sold out game. And he was he'd sit there with the hood up, going, "I just don't care." Cars behind him forever.
Yeah.